Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and this is Smallville Rewind. It's been a little while since we've done this, but I'm excited to get back into Smallville. This episode is titled Skinwalker, and at the very beginning, we see that this plaza is being built on this land. And then you see this Native American guy shows up and he's kind of protesting at the workers because he says something along the lines of like, this was his land first or his people's land first. And then went, oh shit, controversy. Don't you love when TV shows and movies tackle a controversial subject? Although you can argue that, should it be controversial? That a Native American person says that's our land first, goddammit. So he gets kicked out, and then as the worker is finishing up later on at night, this white wolf shows up and fucking tears his ass up, just scratching him and clawing at him. Now, I don't know if the wolf was intentionally trying to kill the person because they set off this flare, and the flare sparks interacted with the gas that was over there, and the wolf bounces and this huge explosion happens, kaboom, and of course kills the worker. So now that becomes a thing and cops are investigating it. The following day, Clark and Pete, I never knew that they were motorbike riders. I don't remember that we've seen them do this before, but they're just all of a sudden like BMX, fucking extreme sports, yeah, riding around. And you see Clark gets knocked over, and he falls through the ground into this cave. So we see this brand new place. It's a cave underground, and this chick is down there. Kyla, I think her name is, not Kayla, Kyla. And she says she was researching down there. Well, first she checks Clark because she figures he's hurt. And of course, he's not hurt. And she's like, how is that possible? How are you not hurt? Oh, I guess I'm just lucky. Clark has the worst excuses. At least when he's trying to come up off the top of his head in the moment. Yeah, he just needs to figure that out a lot better. And this Kyla girl, I'm not going to lie, this actress is pretty hot. She is. She's hot, so instantly Clark is kind of taken with her. He's sort of speechless, right? And you don't really blame him. In fact, there was a moment when when he first landed and he was just sort of like getting to his feet and she came over. He at first called her Lana. I guess she does a tiny bit look like Lana, but it's clear that Clark has Lana almost always on the brain. And so as they're going back and forth, Kyla talks about how she's down there because she's looking for paintings that like her and her grandfather had been looking for, and they haven't been able to find it. And then she just happens to look over, and on the wall where Clark was, there are the paintings. And you're like, well, you have been looking for these paintings and haven't been able to find them until Clark lands there? What? This was all a huge stretch and all a little forced just because you had to involve Clark in the way that you did. Like, I get it, I do. It just was sort of a little contrived. Now, Clark is looking at these paintings, and she's explaining to him how these paintings tell basically the story of Superman. She doesn't say Superman, but it's basically the story of Superman, or the origins of Clark, where it's a all-powerful being that falls out of the sky, and he's able to shoot fire out of his eyes, and he has powers, and he's meant to help people, and he's meant to marry somebody who's wearing like the symbol of the bracelet that the Kyla girl is wearing. Oops, awkward. Just a little bit. So then Clark is with Jonathan, and he's talking to him about like, yeah, we found these caves and this girl, and it might be close to me, you know, like maybe they can help me figure out who I am. And Jonathan's very much like, fuck that. Like, you know, we don't know these people. We don't know if we can trust them. And ultimately, Jonathan's right. I get Clark being eager as a teenager to find out his past or maybe his alien ancestry. I don't know, but Jonathan's being level-headed, and I love the moment when after Jonathan says we don't know these people, Clark says, "Well, I know. That's why I invited them to dinner," and he just leaves. There's no discussion. There wasn't an asking for permission. He just invited them to dinner. Cut to the Native American guy and Kyla, I think his granddaughter, he said. So they're there and they're talking about it. Clark is super interested, asking all these questions, and Kyla is eye fucking the hell out of Clark Kent. I mean, she doesn't mind that she's in front of his parents. She doesn't mind that she's only known this guy for less than a day. She is all about Clark Kent. And then you see them back in the caves, Clark and Kyla, and they're talking more about stuff. In fact, there's a moment when there's a painting of the superhero guy, Clark, and this red evil version, and they're fighting, and Clark asks her what that is, and she's talking about how, oh, well, he's sworn to have this mortal enemy, this person that was his friend but turns on him, and we all know they're talking about Lex Luthor, and that's fine, that's all well and good, but, like, okay, how did the paintings know that Lex Luthor, or that he would have this big enemy? Like, you could do some mental gymnastics over the idea that, like, a Kryptonian came to Earth years and years before Krypton blew up, sort of scouted the place, and that's how Jor-El knew that Earth was a good place to send Clark. Like, that's fine, and that could be where these paintings come from. But the whole, like, he's destined to have this enemy, I feel like we've done that 2 or 3 times now with, like, foreshadowing that Lex is going to be his enemy. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. And then Kayla falls. So Clark super speeds down to catch her. Big rocks fall from the ceiling and breaks over his back, like shatters. So she sees this and she's like, what the fuck? And Clark's like, yeah, you know, and she's completely down with it. She's fine with it because she says she understands what it's like to be different. And they have the biggest makeout session. Like, wow. Things are moving pretty fast and pretty hot and heavy with these two characters. In fact, there was a scene, I don't know if it was before or after this, where Kyla was in Clark's barn, because Clark likes to have a lot of women in his barn. And so he's talking to her, and she's telling him about, like, the stars and the sky and blah, blah, blah. It seemed like it was just an excuse to hold his hand. And then Lana shows up. Oops! Lana sees the two of them getting very close. And Lana mentions that, well, Clark called her, so she figured it was important and came over right away. Fuck. And Clark is like, oh, hey, Lana. Yeah, this is Kayla, or Kyla. And Clark asks Lana to ask her maybe father, we don't know yet, Henry, because he's an environmentalist. And I gotta be honest, I don't remember that we found out her father was an environmentalist. I was sitting there going, like, he is? Like, did we know that? Did he say that? I don't remember any of that. And even Lana's like, well, I'm not that close with him yet. We're still, like, trying to figure shit out. But for you, Clark, sure, fine, I will do that. And, man, that scene was awkward as fuck. I guess we should mention that when Lana does go to talk to this guy, Henry, he tells her that he went and got the DNA test done, and so they now know that Henry is Lana's father. And I was like, wow, we already know. Like, I don't remember where this goes. I wasn't even sure. Like, I remember the storyline up to a point. I remember the guy, but I don't remember him being her father. I don't remember that reveal. I don't remember what happens to this guy. So I am a little curious to see where all of that goes. Now, the grandfather, the Native American grandfather, he gets arrested on suspicion of potentially that murder, explosion, accident, incident that happened at the area. And so, of course, Clark is trying to do what he can to bail him out. Clark even goes to Lex to get the bail money. And I love that Lex was like, all right, Clark, I would do whatever for you. How many times has Lex bailed out, whether it's Jonathan or Clark, or like he comes through, no questions asked. But when it comes to a guy he doesn't know, like this Native American guy, he's like, all respect to the cause, but I don't know that he didn't murder him, and I don't want to just jump headfirst into this without knowing. So Clark says, well, I can prove it to you. So Clark brings Lex to the caves, and Lex is fascinated by these caves. Not just for the cave being there and him not knowing about it, or even the paintings. He sees this one space on the wall that's like that octagon shape that looks like it would fit that piece, that octagon metal piece that Lex had that goes to Clark's ship. I guess it also goes to this wall? I don't know, but Lex noticed it, and so now Lex is all in. Lex does give the bail money, does get the guy out. And when Martha apologizes that Lionel maybe got the grandfather arrested, he's not too pleased with the fact that Martha works for Lionel and all of these issues. And the way Kyla looked at Martha, I was like, oh, that's not good. You want to date Clark and you're going to be saying fuck you with your eyes to Clark's mom? Yeah, that's not cool. And then we get this scene where Martha is leaving her job, and the White Wolf jumps on her car. I don't want to say it was going to attack her. It was potentially just trying to scare her, but man, it was intense. It was crazy. Martha was scared as fuck until it eventually leaves and she drives off. She tells Clark. So Clark is now like, fuck. Because Clark asked Chloe to look into some stuff, some research. I don't remember exactly what Chloe looked up, but Chloe always comes through, so of course. So Chloe tells him, and even Chloe makes mention to the fact that Clark hasn't said hi to her. He isn't really being a great friend, which it didn't seem like he was being a great friend. I know he's caught up in this Kyla girl, but it's like the second you get a girlfriend, you're kind of like, fuck you to your female friends, which, believe me, I know what that was like. In high school, I had a lot of female friends that I was just friends with. But whenever you dated somebody, it just automatically became an issue. It was automatic drama. Automatic, like you had to pick one over the other. And that fucking sucks to be caught in the middle there. So I get what Clark is going through. Although Clark could have said fucking hi to Chloe. Chloe's she's just there. She's not really doing anything. She's basically just Lana's roommate. In fact, Chloe asked Lana about, like, hey, does what's going on between you and Clark, does that have to do with the fact that you're still writing to Whitney? Which is the first time Whitney's been mentioned in a while. And Lana mentions that, well, yeah, her and Whitney have been writing for a while, and they've gotten actually really close. Like, Whitney's opened up to her more than he had before. But he hasn't responded lately. So that doesn't sound like the greatest of news. So Clark approaches Kyla, and he brings up the whole Skinwalkers thing. Oh, that's what Chloe investigated or researched. The whole Skinwalkers thing. Native Americans, the legend of them turning into animals. So Clark is bringing that up to Kyla. Like, what do you know about Skinwalkers? Is this true? Your grandfather, could he be a Skinwalker? And she gets highly offended, highly pissed off. She jumps from, wow, Clark, we're so in love, this is great, we're soulmates, to as soon as he asked that question, she's like, fuck you, what? You think my grandfather's a murderer? Go to hell! And she just walks away. And I'm like, huh? Like, if you're really destined to be together, if you're destined to have this great love, I know she's young and immature, they're all teenagers, but it's like, really? Fucking A, man. a conversation would have sufficed. Or how about this? Because Clark is showing you his powers and he's being open and honest with you so fast, how about you be fucking honest, Kyla? Because clearly she was not honest right there. Then we see Lionel in his mansion, and he gets attacked by a white wolf, the same white wolf. And it's funny, the white wolf was just like on the pool table, and it was face to face with Lionel. Now Lionel is blind, so you're like trying to see like what's gonna happen here. And the moment when the wolf's paw just goes up, well, you could tell it was fake. The paw like scratches him in the face. I was laughing. I have to be honest there. And then the wolf, I mean, it was taking its sweet time, but it looked like it was about to pounce until Clark just shows up. I'm like, why is Clark here? Or how did Clark know that the wolf was going after Lionel next? And like, I know he was slowly piecing together the wolf, and maybe it was the Native American chief, but like, I don't know. I guess he just guessed that he was gonna go there. That was weird. So he stops the wolf. The wolf looks at Clark and almost like, completely retracts from the anger, and even sticks his tongue out, not to be like, but like, it looked friendlier. And then when the guards showed up, the Luthors actually have guards for once, with guns. The wolf jumped out of the window. You see blood on the window shards, the broken glass. So the wolf got cut up. Clark goes out to find it, and the wolf is like dying on the ground, blood coming out of its stomach. And then you see the wolf turn into Kyla. Surprise, surprise! Now, even though I didn't really remember this episode a whole lot, I could tell that Kyla was the wolf. Probably from the way she was looking at Martha. And then the wolf went after Martha. That's when I know Clark thought it was the other guy because he was upset with Martha over her working with Lionel. But I knew that it was Kyla. And a part of me was kind of like, fuck you, Kyla. You went after my mom. Like if you're Clark. But as she's dying, she's telling Clark, like, I never meant to hurt your mom. I just wanted to scare her. Something along those lines. So it's like, okay, fine, sure, whatever. And maybe you can argue that she wasn't trying to kill the worker at the beginning. But either way, she dies in Clark's arms. And then the next day, Clark is holding off the workers from working on that plaza. Martha shows up with Lionel, and Martha decides to join Clark in protest. And Lionel even says to her, is this worth you losing your job for? And I liked her line of, well, that's up to you, Lionel, if I lose my job or not. Because Clark's more important. And so I was like, fucking A, Martha, that's awesome. And then as they're there, the other Native Americans show up, the chief shows up, and he hands Clark the bracelet that Kyla had and says that whoever you're meant to be with, like, this is for her. Which is interesting because I don't remember Clark giving that to Lana or Lois. So we will have to see if this bracelet ever comes back or ever gets referenced again. We see that Lex has bought this plaza project from Lionel because he's not going to follow through with the plaza. He's actually going to preserve the caves. Why? Because Lex is visiting the caves by himself this time because now he's become obsessed with that one spot with the octagon thing. You know this is going to be Lex's new thing now. I don't remember where that goes, so I'm curious to see that. And then the last thing we see is Lana goes back to Clark's barn and she's checking up on him. She apologizes for what happened to the girl. And she's upset, and Clark sees that. He asks her what's wrong. And she says that Whitney's mother called her and told her that Whitney's been MIA. He's been missing in action overseas, so that doesn't look good. She starts to cry. That was actually really good acting from Kristen Krewick, her crying in Clark's arms. And So I really enjoyed the episode. I mean, I say really enjoyed it. Like I have this sense of comfort and even with the cheesier episodes or the over the top episodes, or if you want to say the goofier episodes, I just like watching these characters. Even if it's like they're slowly progressing in their own stories, their own side plots, like Lana and Lex and whatnot. But I thought this was cool. This was different. This was interesting. Let me know in the comments below if you too saw Skinwalkers. If you remember this episode, what do you think of it? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.